Welcome to the pre-taping on October the 23rd of It Happened in Grand Prairie, as we bring you the history of our city and some of the people that were important in making this history, and possibly they're still making history today. This is our history tape number 439, and we are very honored today. We are saluting the Grand Prairie High School alumni honorees. And last week we brought you Juan, the alumnus of the year. Today we bring to you the status gopher for the year 2001. And we are so pleased to bring Mr. Robert Holt Jr. to the dais today. And Mr. Robert Holt, welcome to the set.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I appreciate it.
You bet. And this is not the first time you've been on the set with us, because several years ago we honored you because you were a very wonderful published poet.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, isn't that wonderful?
Yes, I had written a couple of books at that time, a couple of poetry books at that time. Hadn't had a chance to get back around and write another one. I have written some other poems, but I hadn't had a chance to write enough.
Compile another book.
Right.
The third one's going to be a charm when you do that one, because it's really great. Now, Robert, having been chosen the status citizen for 2001, you are in the company of some very illustrious people that have played for the Gophers in the past.
Yes, ma'am.
And we want you to look out into your camera. And
okay.
there are people in our video audience that may not have known you personally during the times that you were famous, not only in Grand Prairie, but when you went into pro ball. So we want to get a basic I guess, genealogy of Robert Holt. Would you look out and tell us your mother and father's name, and any brothers and sisters that you have?
All righty, will do. My father's name is Theodore Williams, and my mother's name is Tommy Williams, and I have three sisters. Sylvia, I want to say Holt, but her last name is Hopkins now.
All right.
And my other sister is Sandra Lewis and Rhonda Williams. Rhonda's living in Denison, Texas. And Sylvia and Sandra, both of them are living here in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yes.
And I also have a step brother named Rodney Wilson, who is living on the other side of Fort Worth.
All right. You sure have them all nice and close here, except for one. That's great, isn't it?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
All right. And where were you born, Robert?
I was born in Denison, Texas.
In Denison, Texas. And what brought you to Grand Prairie, Texas?
Well, my parents moved to Grand Prairie. My father, he was working for Hensley Field Naval for the Air Base out in Grand Prairie. And my mother, she took a job at Sam Houston High School as an assistant principal.
All right.
And so that's when we moved to Grand Prairie. I moved to Grand Prairie at the beginning at the start of my 6th grade year.
6th grade year.
Yes,
okay. And you started the school in the 6th grade where?
At Daniels.
At Daniels.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
It was Dalworth then.
It was Dalworth, but
now
it's David Daniels Academy.
Right.
Isn't that wonderful?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Starting in the 6th grade there. Tell me a little bit about going to Dalworth at that time, who the principal was, your favorite teacher, and who inspired you from Dalworth?
The principal at that time was Mr. Daniels himself. He was the principal.
All right.
And we had quite a few people over there, real significant people from the neighborhood. Miss Moore, who recently had an elementary school named after her, she was there. Miss Ruby Jepson was my favorite teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we used to do a lot of drawing in her class also. I was really into art. As a matter of fact, that's what I went to. When I attended Baylor, I was an art major at Baylor. And like I said, a lot of inspiration came from Miss Jefferson's art class, because she really encouraged me to take my art as far as I could. It was a good experience, a real good experience. I had a lot of close friends of mine, you know, who were there with me at Daniels, one of them being Calvin Harrison, who is now
the principal.
Right, now the principal at Daniels Elementary School. Right.
All right, now at Dalworth, were you into sports or athletics at all?
Yes, ma'am. Back then, I played football for the Green Raiders, which was I think it was a YMCA team.
All right.
But after that, then I played little Pee Wee League football for Charles McKenzie's Pee Wee Packers. I don't know if you remember Mr. McKenzie.
Yes.
You remember him?
Yes.
Very good man.
Very good man.
He left an impression on a lot of us. I mean, very, can't say enough about him. But did real well playing for him. I don't think we lost but maybe one game the whole 2 years I played for him, and we got a chance to go to New Orleans and played a team in New Orleans, which was one of the games that we ended up losing. But
that was an uptown experience,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yes, especially when you're 7th and 8th grade. Yes, ma'am.
Where'd you go from Daniels?
From Daniels, went to Adams Middle School.
All right, who was the principal and favorite teacher, and what did you do at Adams?
Mr. Turner.
Mr. Turner, Amos Turner.
Who has a gym named after me at Grand Prairie. Everyone,
Yes.
all these names I'm bringing up have some building named after him.
All right.
But yes, he was the principal at Adams when I was there. Had a lot of favorite teachers there. I want to say Miss Cantrell.
All right.
Miss Carol Cantrell. I don't know if you remember her or not.
Yes.
But she was one of my favorite teachers. From Adams, I went on to Grand Prairie High School.
Wait a minute.
I'm going too fast?
Were we in sports at Adams?
Yes, I was. I played football at Adams. I also participated in track also.
All right. Who were your coaches? Any favorite coaches there?
Yes. And it'll come to me in a minute. I can't believe I forgot the name.
That's all right.
But it'll come to me in a minute. Coach Tom Talley.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you an interesting story about him. When I was at Adams, we used to play football on the playground all the time during lunch, at recess on the blacktop rather. And I used to quarterback for my team. We would do good. You know, for the most part, we would win. And Coach Talley and some of the other coaches, they would watch us, and I was unaware that they were watching us. And I remember he wanted me to play quarterback for the football team at Adams, which I was kind of reluctant because I had never played that position before, and I was more comfortable being a wide receiver, which is what I had been accustomed to, you know, prior to that. And a couple of times I ended up quitting the football team. And I know one time I was going home, and a friend of mine, Monty Osmond, told my father about halfway home. So he made a U-turn in the middle of the road and took me back to Adams. But to make a long story short, eventually my parents, they said, okay, if you don't want to play quarterback, you don't have to. And so I didn't. They let me go ahead and play wide receiver, which now that I'm older and a lot wiser, I look back on that and I realize that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made.
Yes.
Coach Talley, he saw something in me that at that age I didn't see in myself.
Yes.
And you know, as a matter of fact, a few years back, he's not in Grand Prairie anymore. I'm not exactly sure where he is now, but I wrote him a letter to thank him, you know, for what he had tried to do
for you.
Right. And I hate that, you know, at that time I didn't see what he was trying to do, because I think it would have really helped me a lot, you know, further down the road in my athletic career.
In your future,
right.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then on to Grand Prairie High School, and the principal in athletics and what?
The head coach there was Coach Mary. Okay. I can't believe I'm forgetting everyone, but anyway, Coach Mary was my head coach.
Wide receiver?
Yes, ma'am.
Wide receiver again.
Played wide receiver on offense, and I was a defensive back on defense. It was the first time I'd ever played defense. I went both ways. But other than Charles McKenzie, Coach Mary, he was I enjoyed playing for him more than any other coach I've ever played for, other than, like I said, Charles McKenzie. I mean, and that was only 1 year.
Yes.
Coach Mary didn't come to Grand Prairie High until my last year.
Till you were a senior.
Right. The 3 years I was there, I had 3 different coaches. And like I said, I only played for him 1 year. And the year that I played for him, we only won, I think my senior year, we only won 1 or 2 games. I can't remember to be exact. But even though we only won 1 or 2 games, you know, I never played for a coach that treated you with as much respect as Coach Mary did. You know, there were times when he would get on you, you know, when you weren't performing up to the level that he felt like you should be performing up to, but you knew where he was coming from.
He was always a gentleman.
Right, and he always had your best interests at heart, and he was just trying to get you to move to the next level. So, okay. Yeah.
Any other favorite teachers academically? Any favorite subjects? Or
I enjoyed art.
Still back into art.
I enjoyed art. And Don Riley, he was my art teacher who, you know, passed not too long ago.
Yes.
I thought he was a very, very good art teacher. And I said Ms. Cantrell earlier. I made a mistake. Ms. Cantrell was my English teacher at Grand Prairie High School.
Grand Prairie.
As a matter of fact, she helped me edit the first portrait book that I wrote.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
Yes, sure did.
All
and
right.
she was there when I went back as an assistant principal. Ms. Cantrell was still there.
Still there at Grand Prairie High School.
And even some of the coaches, Coach Compton and you know, Coach Jordan and Coach Walton. You know, I worked with him before in the past also. I mean, all, you know, real good guys. So I have all the respect in the world.
You recycled them all, didn't you?
Recycled every last one.
All right. Now, graduating from Grand Prairie High School, you must have gotten a scholarship. And who was the magic person that helped you know where to go? Well,
I tell you what, I went to Baylor, played down in Baylor. Two people that really influenced me more so than anyone else was Scooter Reed.
All right.
And a guy named Ronald Burns who played at Sam Houston High School.
All right.
I idolized both of those guys as youths. When I was a kid. I used to go and watch the Gophers play all the time. And I used to go and watch Sam Houston because my mother was an assistant principal there.
Yes.
And Ronald Burns, he was All-American at Sam Houston High School. And like I said, I remember
really
him
great.
Remember him giving me one of his jerseys to wear one time, and I wore it every day of the week. You know,
By the way, you're wearing a special little jersey today. How about that?
Yeah, this is I'm here representing my nephew.
Your nephew is?
Jaron Hope.
Jaron Hope. He's been written up in the newspaper recently. I believe in the black newspaper of Dalworth.
Right.
I have a copy of that recently, of that young man.
He's done well. He has. I'm proud of Jaron. He graduated from Grand Prairie High last year.
And his mother is?
Sandra.
Lewis. Okay.
Sandra Lewis, yes.
Not Sylvia, but Sandra.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, he's done well. Like I said, he's done at Vanderbilt this year.
Okay.
And, you know, he was redshirted this year. He was a little disappointed in the beginning, but, you know, we talked and, you know, as of right now, he's made the adjustment and he's looking forward to next year and, you know, is learning as much as he can. And like I said, he's looking forward to getting out on the football field next year and showing them what he could do.
Now, carrying this status gopher from all the way from your elementary, middle school, Grand Prairie High School, and now at Baylor, what happened after Baylor?
Well, after I finished at Baylor, I was drafted by the Buffalo Bills.
All right.
I was drafted in the 6th round by the Buffalo Bills, and I was there 3.5 years. But I didn't get a chance to accomplish a lot of goals that I set for myself because of injuries. The first year I was in Buffalo, I tore a quadricep muscle prior to the start of the season, so I ended up missing that whole year. It was misdiagnosed, so I ended up missing. It took halfway through the year before they realized exactly, you know, what it was I had done. So like I said, I ended up missing that whole year. The second year I was in Buffalo, we had a strike that year. That was 82. We had a strike that year, and we only had 9 games. We only played 9 games that year, and I played in 7 of the 9 games. Did pretty good, but like I said, not as well as I would have liked to have.
Were you still wide receiver?
I was wide receiver. I ran back punts, ran back kickoffs. You know, at one point I was 4th in the league as far as kickoff returns was concerned. Did real well in the preseason game leading up to that. Caught a couple of touchdowns, one being an 81-yard touchdown against the Detroit Lions.
Oh, wow. Had
a nice punt return against Dallas. When we played the Cowboys here, almost broke it for a touchdown. And you know, I remember against the Green Bay Packers, I had like 135 yards against them on kickoff returns. So I was doing well, but like I said, you know, that was the only year that I really actually got to play, even though I was there 3.5 years. My 3rd year that I was in Buffalo, I tore my knee up the last preseason game. You know.
Yes.
I had 3 guys that were drafted ahead of me, and I beat all 3 of them out. I was 2 days away from getting a raise, from getting a new contract. You know,
hurt that knee.
Hurt my knee, so I didn't get a raise, and that was another year I ended up missing that whole year. And then halfway through my 4th year, since my knee hadn't recuperated, that's when they released me. So even though I was there 3.5 years, I really only played in 7 games. So to me, it was disappointing. You know, I didn't get a chance to, like I said, accomplish a lot of goals that I set for myself, but.
You didn't get to accomplish football and sports goals, but you have accomplished many more goals, whether you set them or whether the good Lord set them or not.
That's true. That's true.
All right. After Buffalo Bills, did you decide to run home and cry a lot, or did you get busy?
Well, I was a little depressed there for a while. And that's one reason. That's how I got into writing.
Yes,
it was a way to express yourself, to kind of let some of your frustration out. And what I ended up doing, I ended up going back to get my degree.
Yes.
I had an uncle, one of my mother's brothers. He was a dean at Prairie A&M University.
Yes.
And he encouraged me to come down to Prairie and get my degree, which is what I did. I went down and I, received a degree in physical education.
In what?
Physical education.
Wonderful. Right. Okay, now we're cooking.
And once I got my degree, then I, got into education, and this is my 13th year in education. I've been an assistant principal for 6.5 years, and I've been a PE teacher for 6.5 years also. So. And
you like being a PE teacher better than an assistant principal?
It depends on it depends. Sometimes, there's pros and cons to both. Disadvantages and advantages to both situations. So, it's not being a PE teacher is not as stressful as being an administrator.
Yes.
But also you don't make as much money as you do. So like I say, it's
a good trade-off, isn't it?
Right. Right.
All right. Being an assistant principal at Grand Prairie High School with Mr. Buddy Berry. What kind of an experience was that? He is a tough principal.
Oh,
Did
Mr.
you learn
Berry.
a lot from him?
I learned a lot from Mr. Berry's a good man, a
Yes.
very good man. I mean, all the people that I worked with at Grand Prairie High School, I had a lot of respect for. Ruth White, who's one of the
Yes.
assistant principals there. I mean, I can go on and on from the ones. A lot of them have changed. Like Calvin Harrison. The first year I was there, I worked with him.
Yes.
I really enjoyed working with Calvin. Then he left, and then you would bring other people on.
Yeah.
So, but Mr. Berry, like I say, I can't say enough about him either. I really enjoyed working for him. He's not a difficult man to work for. I mean, he's a good man to work for. He makes it easy for you. He makes the job fun also.
All right. What are you doing now?
Well, right now I'm a PE teacher over at Garner Elementary School.
And your principal? Your
Miss
principal?
Miss Vicky Wiggins.
Let's talk
Vicky.
about her.
Okay, all right.
Now, when I called out, Miss Vicky is the one that gave you permission, and I believe she's helping you out today while you're doing this
Right,
interview. Tell me what she's doing.
She's covering my PE class.
I think that is outstanding
Oh,
when you can get your principal to cover for your class while you go and dog off and do a television show. Now, isn't that wonderful?
You can't say enough about her either. Now, I didn't get her to do it. That's something that she volunteered to do. She easily could have had someone else to go out to the gym and cover for me, but she volunteered to do that on her own.
Would you tell her how proud we are of her?
Oh, I definitely will. She's been doing a very good job this year also. She really has. And like I said, I can't say enough about her either. I mean, she goes over and beyond, with just about everything she does, and she's a real good person.
How do your kids like you as the PE teacher?
They like me because I'm the biggest kid on the whole campus.
You the biggest one,
I'm
aren't
the biggest kid. I get to go out there and play and
and
rip
have fun.
run. That's right. Right.
Do you have any prospective geniuses in that PE class so far? Are you grooming them for something wonderful and encouraging them?
Well, I tell you what. Right now, what I'm doing, I'm teaching them flag football. I teach them flag football. I teach them how to play basketball, and I teach them softball also. And then once I teach them, then we have little teams that play after school, and like little intramural program. But like I say, first of all, I teach them how to play the game. Then I let them get their own teams together, and they compete against each other. And we have like the playoffs and the Super Bowl, and the team that wins the Super Bowl buy them trophies and that type of thing.
How wonderful!
And I've done that every year that I've been a PE teacher. And going back to what you just asked a little while ago, you always notice kids who are better athletes than others.
Yes.
I remember when my nephew Jaron, I remember when I had him as a kid. I knew that once he got older, I could tell that he was going to be a real good athlete. Another young man, Lance Broadway, I had him at LBJ. I have a teacher that works there, Miss Rogers. I had her kids when they were in elementary school. And Jessica Rogers, who was playing softball at South Grand Prairie, and Jonathan, and I knew then when they were little young kids that they were,
they had a talent.
Right. And same thing, there's some kids there also who you can look at them, you can tell their skills are a lot more advanced than some of the other kids. But as long all the kids, I put them in the same category. As long as they come, regardless of what type of level of ability they have, as long as they come to class and do their best, that's all I ask for.
All right. Now, let's get down to the basics.
Okay.
We have you as a principal, assistant principal. We have you as an athletic director. We have you as a scholar. We have you as a famous football player for the Buffalo Bills.
Didn't get to be famous.
How about Robert Holt personally? Do you have a family?
Yes, I do.
You better talk about that.
I guess I better, huh? But we say the best for last.
That's it.
I have a wonderful wife, Sandra Holt. In the beginning,
give us her maiden name.
Her maiden name is Tucker.
All right.
Her maiden name is Tucker, Sandra Tucker. And I was kind of glad to see my sister get married because for a long time in the family we had two Sandra Holts.
Yes,
so,
yes.
We kind of kept getting them mixed up there for a while. But I've been married for 8 years, like I said, to a wonderful person, Sandra Holt. And I have 2 kids. I have a son who is 13 years old.
Name him.
Sean Maness is his last name. He's my son from my wife's previous marriage. And then I have a daughter, Brianna Holt, who's 6 years old. She's in 1st grade this year.
All right, and both of them are in school in Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, or where?
St. Elizabeth in Dallas.
St. Elizabeth in Dallas.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that's wonderful.
And they're doing good. Both of them are doing well.
All right, can you see any potential in either one of them to do great things in your name?
I see potential in both of them. My boy, he's a very gifted athlete. I mean, and he's the sport that he likes the most is basketball. I mean, he'll stay out in the backyard all day and all night, and I mean, basketball.
Forget the books.
Well, sometimes you have to get him back on course at times.
Yeah.
But I mean, he even opted not to play football this year so he could focus on basketball, which I felt like was a mistake because I think he's just as good in football as he is in basketball. But like I said, that's what
he likes.
That's what he chose to do, and I didn't want to force him to do something that he didn't want to do. You know, where he would end up regretting it. So you know, let him go ahead and do that. You know, concentrate on basketball. And my daughter, I think she's going to be an artist also.
Oh, going to be an artist.
She constantly draws. I mean, that's what she does.
She picked up those genes, didn't she?
She picked them up. Yeah.
Yes.
She constantly
And
drawing
is your wife a homemaker, or does she work out of the house?
No, she works out of the house. She works for not Pizza Hut, Taco Cabana. She used to work for Pizza Hut. She works for Taco Cabana. She's in human resources.
Oh, that is great.
She hires and fires people.
Hires and fires people. Oh, that is wonderful. And brings home good tacos every now and then.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's when she was with with Pizza Hut. Yeah, now she's with Taco Cabana. Okay.
Yes, all right. And now tell me about your mom.
My mother?
What an inspiration she must be to you.
She is, very much so. Both of my parents are.
Yes.
My father, too. Both of them are very, very, very inspirational. I can't say about my mother. As you know, she had a school named after her in Arlington also, Tommy B. Williams Elementary School.
We bow 3 times to the east to her every time we see her now.
A few years back. So,
yes.
you know, I mean,
yes.
You know, for people to think that much of her, to name something, just like you know, to name a place after you, I mean, that says a lot in itself right there. And like I said, my father, can't say enough about him either. You know, a lot of times, you know, when you become a parent and trying to raise kids, and sometimes you see how difficult it is.
Yes, it is.
It makes you appreciate your parents a lot more. Mm-hmm. You know, it makes you appreciate what they did. You know, I look at a lot of the people that I grew up with who, you know, ended up getting themselves into trouble, and some of them getting, you know, ended up in jail and that type of thing. And I know for a fact that the main reason that we didn't turn out that way, one of the main reasons is because of my stepfather, you know, because he was there and we knew we couldn't, you know. And
he retired as a colonel? I remember when the place closed down, he was a colonel.
Yes, ma'am.
And a wonderful, wonderful person at Hensley Field and Navy Dallas and all of the good stuff.
Right.
And not only that, he's a great supporter of Keep Grand Prairie Beautiful, and he takes Miss Tommy to all of the state conventions and everything else, so we really depend on him.
He's a good man. Like I said, I can't say enough about him.
All right, now, we're getting down to within about 5 or 4 minutes of the end of this interview. I'd like for you to look out into your camera.
Okay.
I'd like you to talk to any of the boys and girls that might watch our show, or any of the parents that might have any influence on those. Tell them how important it is to set your goals and stick with them. You may not succeed, but keep on keeping on. And then at the end of that, I'd like for you to just say something about your poetry, how much that means to you, and thank the Gophers Alumni Association for this honor.
Okay, and if I forget something, you remind me.
I'll wind you up.
Okay. But I feel like it's important not only to set long-term goals, but short-term goals also. I've set a lot of goals for myself. Some of the goals I didn't reach, like I said, with professional football. And, you know, at the time, it was disappointing that I didn't obtain those goals. But, you know, life goes on. At this point in my life, I have other goals that I've set, you know, as far as writing and that type of thing. I have, you know, a game that I've been working on for 10 years now. And I still haven't gotten it exactly like I wanted. But I'm still working on it, and you know, eventually when I get it to the point to exactly the way I want it, I'm gonna try to get it out and see if I can, you know, have maybe a game company or someone pick it up and try to do something with that. As far as my writing, I also have a novel that I'm working on. I've been working on it for the last couple of years. I have some other poems I've written. Like I said, I haven't written enough to put into a manuscript, but I'm working on that also. So, you know, I still have a lot of things that I feel like I have not done. You know, a lot of things I'm still trying to do, trying to accomplish. I think it's always important to remember that you don't ever give up. You know, because once you know you can get to the point you can become frustrated. And once you give up, that's it. It's all over and done with. You know, but as long as you keep pecking away, eventually someone will open the door at some point. It may not be exactly when you want the door to be open, but at some point, you know, I feel like the door will be open. You look at a lot of successful people, and you know their success didn't come overnight. You know, I met a lady named Miss Margaret Alexander Walker from Jackson, Mississippi, who wrote a book called Jubilee, and she won a Pulitzer Prize for that book. And a friend of mine I played football with at Baylor lives in Jackson, Mississippi, arranged for me to meet her. And one of the things that impressed me most of all about her is that she told me it took over 20 years just to write that one book. And I was like, that's perseverance.
That is.
But like I say, never give up on your goals. You just like I say, you just never know, when you may obtain them. I want to say thank you to the Grand Prairie Alumni Association. Like I said, I mentioned Ms. Jackson earlier. I didn't really realize the significance of this award until I spoke to Randy Jennings last night, who's a very good friend of mine. And he had a list of previous people who had won this award also. And some of the people I knew and some I didn't know, and the ones that I did not know, he told me who they were. And it made me realize just how important it is to receive this award, and I really do appreciate it. I appreciate everything that Ms. Jackson that you've done, all the support that you've given, not just for this award, but I mean even in the past, even from when I was on your show 7, 8 years ago, and the things that you've done, that you do for the community, also that you've done for my mother, and I mean you're a good person, you're a genuine person, you're a real good person. I appreciate that. And like I said before, with my mother having a school named after her, with you having a building named after you also, I think that I can't say enough. I mean, people have already said it. That lets you know how much people really appreciate what you've done also. And I mean, even for you to remember everybody in my family, remember my sisters, and and to, I mean, like I said, that says a lot, and that shows what type of person you are. And like I said, I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate everything you've done and everyone else has done also.
All right, you've had a wonderful salute, and we're looking forward to on October the 26th in the Gopher Bowl. You're going to be down on the green when this presentation is made. There's also going to be a wonderful reception beginning at about 5:30, between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the high school cafeteria at Grand Prairie High School. And you will be recognized more formally there, but we're just so pleased that you would honor us with your presence today. And we hope that we're going to be able to resurrect some of the footage from some of your games when you were a professional, or even when you were just in football, wherever you were at Baylor. And maybe we can run that as a special sports thing on our show one day in the near future. And we want to thank you for the time. I thank your principal again for doing this.
I thank you, I thank her, and I thank everybody, the Grand Prairie High Alumni Association and everyone that had a part in it.
Thank you. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.